Tulum was a late classic Mayan city, so this is much newer than pretty much any of the other ones you're going to be seeing in the Yucatan. It only was from about 1300 ADE till about 1600 ADE when the Spaniards came and kind of killed everybody off with smallpox. Good morning for my last real full day here in Cancun. I'm sorry it's so freaking loud, but I'm right on the main road Tulum, and I'm walking to my meeting point to get picked up to go on my tour to Tulum and Coba this morning. And like yesterday, it's going to be a full day tour. I've heard somewhat negative things about this tour's trip to Coba being way too short, which I'm not going to be shocked if that happens. So I'm heading up that way now, and I'll see you guys when I get to Tulum. Well, I have made it into and have walked around a very large chunk of the ancient city of Tulum. However, like any of these sites down here, Tulum was not its original name. If I remember, I'll put it down here for you guys. That can also be said about all the structures, like the main temple up there, El Castillo. There's an El Castillo at every single one of these ancient Mayan sites because it was the castle, and that's what the Spaniards called it. However, as far as this site goes, it is so packed with tourists. I think there's probably as many people here as there was at Chichen Itza for me yesterday. And this site's very small in comparison, so all those people are just like crammed into a tiny space. I had intended to do my dialogue and talking up there around the main pyramid, but there was just way too many people for me to even attempt it, especially considering that you're not allowed to have external microphones here, just like at Chichen Itza, because they consider that professional video equipment. So Tulum was a late classic Mayan city, so this is much newer than pretty much any of the other ones you're going to be seeing in the Yucatan. It only was from about 1300 ADE till about 1600 ADE when the Spaniards came and kind of killed everybody off with smallpox. This was a very short-lived city, and this portion of it wasn't really a city. It was the governmental administrative area of Tulum. The residences were actually on the outskirts of this city, and those actually haven't been found because for the most part, the houses were built out of wood, so those decay, fall apart, and they just don't last for us to really find anything from. And the way that they generally will find the residential areas of these cities is like the remnants of like the cooking and facilities, things like that. But nothing like that has actually been found in here, which is why they are pretty certain that this was more of just like an administrative area of Tulum. That, along with the fact that this is basically a fortified city. It has the steep wall ocean drop on one side, and then on the other side, it's completely surrounded by a wall with only 4 entrances through. They only let people through, I think, 2 of them now. This city, while it was going, was mainly a port city, a trading city. Both inland and via the sea, up and down the coasts, down to Belize, up through the Yucatan, and they believe a large chunk of that was obsidian, which obviously wasn't found around here, but it was brought here from other cities even over to Tikal in western Mexico. And then it was traded up and along the coasts, inland to the other Mayan cities. As far as the impressiveness of this city, honestly, it's not overly impressive in comparison with a lot of the Mayan cities that are around. This is probably one of my least favorite that I've actually been to. It's still definitely worth a stop because it is right outside of the current city of Tulum and is easy to get to, as you can see by the large number of tourists. Right now, this is actually a small amount of tour groups coming through, but they are flowing through here constantly in gigantic hordes. You don't really need a huge amount of time, I think, to really explore this city. I mean, we're only here for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I kind of feel like that's enough for me. And if an hour and a half is enough for me, who can spend an entire day at some cities, I would say it's plenty for most people. So if you are in Tulum, or maybe even Cancun like I was, I would say it's worth a stop to come down here and see this place. But don't skip out on more of the obscure or inland ruins like Coba, which I'm heading to next, and is 2,000 years older than this. It's actually from, well, 3,000 years. It's actually from about 2000 BCE. similar to the site I went to yesterday, or Ekbalam, which is pretty close to that, pretty close to Chichen Itza. Go to those sites if you are very limited on time. I would definitely prioritize those sites than here. But it is beautiful. Make a stop and check out the beautiful Mayan city of Tulum. So I'm gonna start heading back out now so that I'm not making my bus wait for me. While I was walking out, I did pass a sign that said ecological trail. So maybe you could spend a little longer here. I don't know how long the trail is, but if you like to hike and you don't mind the 100% humidity, it would be a very beautiful area to go on a little hike. So there's that eco trail is right by the exit. If you come in the one gate or archway through the wall and come out the other one, the ecological trail is right there before the exit. One final note, the walk into and out of this city is pretty long. I'm not sure how many miles or kilometers or whatever it is, but I mean, it takes at a constant walk at least 10 to 15 minutes, I'd say, to walk it. So keep that in mind. The site itself isn't massive like Chichen Itza, so there's not an excessive amount of walking there, but you are going to be walking quite a bit in and out. And also, apparently you can rent bikes. But when you're in the city, there's going to be a lot of areas that are really roped off. They actually keep you farther away from the temples than most of the other sites, which I'm kind of okay with because I don't want to climb them if they don't want me to climb them. But some of the ropes are like really far back. So that was kind of a downfall. That, and then the fact that just like all these archaeological sites here in the Yucatan, there's like no paint left on any of these buildings because they were all very beautifully bright colors back when this was a thriving city. So with that final little bit of information, if you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe down below. See you guys at Koba.